Hello again, friends. Next up, we'll be doing Bordogni 2. Much like Bordogni 1, one of the rhythmic things we want to be aware of is the dotted 8/16. Now, we don't have triplets preceding any of these guys, obviously, but I think obviously we still have a tendency to want to swing these, especially if we are some stronger jazz players. I'm not a very strong jazz player, and I find myself wanting to swing them every now and then, too. But also just the consistency. The longer this exercise goes, especially once you get past measure 30, you start adding in grace notes, we start adding in some different stylistic markings. I think we can get a little bit lazy or just unfocused with that rhythmic quality. So just being confident and very sure that we're laying down that 16th note right where it needs to be, and not just kind of being a little bit lazy or loose with it. From there, making sure the breath doesn't impact the musical phrasing. I think obviously that can be something we can say about pretty much every Bordogni, and quite frankly, really any piece of music. But especially in the Bordogni, since we do view these as the lyrical studies, we want to make sure that in making music, we don't let the breath impact how we're doing it. Obviously, we need to breathe as much as we need to be musical, but not so much that we're really disrupting the phrase. And I find, especially around measure 40, where you have that repeated be-da-da-dum, be-da-da-dum, we tend to really chop off that last eighth note on the downbeat just to give us that extra millisecond or two to breathe. And not only is that not a very musical thing to do, because obviously that note needs to be as robust and as vibrant as all the notes that precede it, but we tend to take a bad breath if we're really just trying to chop notes off, and we get that tension in our breath, and that's really not what we want to be doing. So really make sure that we're nice and relaxed there. Let that note just flow off, take in as much air as you can in that short period of time, and obviously a couple beats later you have the opportunity to do that again, and then that certainly is a challenge of itself as well. And then from there, just making the most of these musical moments, whether they're written in, like depending on the edition you have, the rallentando and fermata, was at measure 12. It's really making the most of that moment, but then also finding other spots that maybe aren't written in to kind of push and pull a little bit. Obviously the generic as the phrase goes up, crescendo as it goes down, decrescendo. Certainly that can be a part of it too, but find those moments to make your own, just that own little bit different interpretation. Because again, that's the beauty of these, and I think since we are trying to develop that musical sense, it's important to experiment with some of the pushing and pulling. It may be terrible the first few places you choose, but you're starting to get out of your comfort zone and figure out where can I find that extra little bit of music to really make it my own. So those are most of the thoughts that I have on that, at least for now. Probably done hearing me talk and want to hear me play it. So without further ado, Bordogni 2. Bordogni 2. Happy practicing.